The Fallout series has been one of my all-time favorites, ever since I first got my hands on Fallout 3 back in 2008. And for me personally, there are very few things that come close to matching the feeling of a new Fallout game being announced, let alone shown in full glory at E3. But this year, something felt different. Don't get me wrong, I was still extremely excited to see what Bethesda had to offer. It's just that there was this little thought in the back of my mind. A worrying thought that had been there ever since we got word that Fallout 76 might be online.
Because yes, Fallout 76 is entirely online.
That's not to say that online games are inherently bad either. In fact, a few of my favorite games I largely enjoy because of their multiplayer components. It's just that when I think of Fallout, I think single player. A single player in which you explore a desolate wasteland, rarely able to count on anyone else to survive, but yourself. That was always a large part of what made this series so special. That said, I think that I and many others out there would be lying to you if we claimed to have never wondered what it would be like to share that same Fallout experience with a friend. The series has always had its fair share of companions that you could drag along for the ride. Would it really be so bad if they were actual people instead? I think back to how many cool moments I've had in Fallout, and how I've gone on to share many of those same moments with friends in the form of a story. But what if they didn't have to be just stories? What if instead, those friends could have been there to see it unfold firsthand? Again, would that have really been so bad? What we've seen so far from Fallout 76 seems incredibly ambitious. Some may even say risky. But there's nothing worse than a game series that gets stuck in a vicious cycle of repetition. And in some ways, I believe we started to see that with Fallout 4. We ran into a lot of the same factions and mutated creatures that we had already encountered several times before. And while I still enjoyed seeing them, admittedly it almost felt too familiar. And I longed for the day when I would once again leave the vault and be overwhelmed by the unfamiliar. Just like I was for the first time back when I played Fallout 3. Aside from its more intriguing narrative, that's part of what made Far Harbor stand out so much. And with Fallout 76 taking place just 25 years after the bombs dropped, it has a chance to capture that same sense of wonder.
Fallout 76 is a prequel to all the other games, and it's our biggest one yet. It is 4 times the size of Fallout 4.
The creatures presented thus far, for starters, have all been remarkably different from anything we've seen in the past. Giant wasps, mutated sloths, irradiated bat-like creatures. Overall, they really seem to be mixing things up, and that is so awesome to see. You know, if I'm a sucker for anything, it's definitely interesting monsters and an intriguing world. And so far we've also seen an especially diverse array of locations. And unlike Fallout 4 where you had landmarks and enemies around every corner, they seem to be a bit more spread out this time around. Very similar to how they were in Fallout 3. And I think that's going to do a great job at making this feel far more like an actual wasteland in the grand scheme of things. Well, that is unless those empty areas eventually become filled to the brim with player-made structures. Look, I love building my own stuff. Anyone who's been around the channel for a while knows that, but that does not mean I want to see someone else's giant wooden penis decorating the side of a building, or run into an entire town that's been walled off by other players. Sure, stuff like that could be cool, but for how long? When does that player-made obstacle go from being a nice challenge to a complete nuisance? I'm sure the answer is pretty damn quick. So if I just want to play solo as a means of getting away from all that nonsense, what does that entail?
Of course you can play this solo, all right? You'll be who you want, exploring a huge world, doing quests, experiencing a story, and leveling up. We love those things about our games too. It would not have it any other way.
Does playing solo turn the game into a genuine single-player experience? Or does it simply mean I'll be playing with a bunch of random people rather than pre-selected friends? They have gone on to say that your progress stays with you, but to that I say, to what extent? If someone launches a nuke in an area I have yet to explore, will it stay that way forever? Or eventually revert back to its original form? It feels like a very fine line to walk because either which way could end up being a bit jarring. And think about all the other possibilities that come with this being an online game. What on earth happens if some random guy decides to kill all the quest givers? Or perhaps a better question would be, can you even do that? As you can probably tell by now, despite learning a lot at E3, we still have a ton of unanswered questions. And there's a good chance you're probably wondering right now if you're going to die the man in rags with nothing more than a few caps to his name, or live long enough to see yourself become the raider in power armor who pulled the trigger. Despite my worries, I think Fallout 76 has a lot in store for us. And I'm still very excited and extremely eager to get my hands on it this November. I see it as a nice spin-off game for the series, and I'm actually pretty glad they're deciding to have some fun with it. But that's just my opinion, and now I'm very curious to hear what you think. Are you excited for Fallout 76? Worried about the direction it's going? Or maybe even a bit of both? Either way, thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one.